What's going on, everybody? Tom here with Keto Lifestyle. And as you can tell, because we are back on the couch right now, today is going to be another informational video. Now today we're going to be talking about what you can actually eat on keto. I get this question all the time in my inbox. I see things all over, Facebook groups, everything like that. This seems to be something that people really wonder, like what kind of things are keto acceptable? Now, I'm going to go ahead and break this down by category, and I'm going to list it right here, the categories that we're going to cover, so you can skip ahead as you want, because I'm going to throw the timestamps next to them. And also, I'm going to go and make an infographic for this, and I'm going to link the infographic in the description down below if you guys just want something to quickly reference. But let's get started by talking about the most important macro on the keto diet, which is fat. Now, these are the fat sources that I want to talk about here. And I'm not really going to go into too much exactly what you're going to eat. That's going to be in the infographic, but this is just going to give you an idea what to look for. Now, as a general rule, all fat sources are great on keto. There are some things that would cause inflammation that you want to avoid, but for the most part, things like olive oil, butter, coconut oil, ghee are going to be fantastic. There really aren't too many fats that I would avoid explicitly, but kind of double check what you're eating. Make sure that there's not a whole bunch of carbs in there because it's sweetened with something or whatnot. That's not usually the case with oils and fats, but take a look at them. Meats. Guys, meats are a staple of the keto diet. Yes, there are some people that I know that do vegetarian keto, some that do vegan keto, but most of us, we're going to rely on meats for everything. And the type of meat you get is going to help you a ton. Getting like 93% lean ground beef is not going to be good for you guys. 80-20 is where it's at. Sometimes we'll even go down to 73% lean. You want that extra fat. My steaks, I'm getting ribeyes, things like that are just loaded with fats. Now obviously there's eggs, bacon. If you want fish, salmon's a great option. And most pork is pretty good in fat as well. The things you're going to want to really avoid are things like turkey breast, chicken breast. If you want chicken, use chicken thigh. There's a lot higher fat. But something like boneless, skinless chicken breast is really just going to be so high in protein that you're going to have to just douse it in fats in order to eat it. Now that being said, I will have chicken breast on occasion, but it's going to be in some type of cream sauce that is packed with flavor and packed with fats in order to counteract the fact that there is so much protein and so little fat in a chicken breast. Now we're going to get to the more interesting stuff, like vegetables. What kind of vegetables can you eat? Well, you're going to want to go for your dark leafy greens, and you're going to want to go for things that don't have a lot of carbs, a lot of, things like that. Now, yes, all your leafy greens are going to have some carbs in them. It's just the nature of it. But if you're getting carbs from broccoli, asparagus, spinach, cauliflower, those are good carbs for you, and I wouldn't worry about them too much. But things like corn, carrots, you're really going to want to avoid those things. Again, this is all going to be in the infographic, but what you're really looking for here is you want things that are high in micros and low in carbs. And the thing about vegetables is there's a lot of bulk to it. So I may make myself a spinach salad using, a whole tub of spinach. And yeah, I'm going to get 8-9 carbs from eating that much spinach, but the potassium and magnesium from it is fantastic. And as you guys all know, electrolytes are super important on the keto diet. So, it's worth it. Next thing on my list is fruits. Now, there's a kind of misconception going around that you can't have any fruit on the keto diet. And that's pretty much true, but there are some exceptions to this. Now, the things that I would avoid are, things that are very high in carbs, like apples, oranges, things like that are just going to be loaded with sugars and are going to mess with you. The things that you can have is berries. Now, be sparing with these because most berries do have carbs in them, but pretty much any berry you can think of is probably going to be okay in moderation. The next two you might not consider fruits, but they actually are fruits, but avocados and tomatoes. Avocados are great on keto. There's a lot of potassium in them. They do have a bit of carbs, but most of it's from fiber, so if you're counting net carbs, it's not really a big deal, but there's also a ton of fat in avocados, and yes, they are technically a fruit. Tomatoes, they're not that great for you in terms of like fats or anything like that, but they do add a lot of flavor, so if you're cooking, using tomatoes sparingly is actually a pretty good option. But in terms of like everything else that you can think of, I would really try to avoid them. I mean, berries and those, tomatoes, avocados, those things that I listed are great for you. But everything else, I would really, really recommend avoiding. You may be able to find some that are lower in carbs, but I just wouldn't risk it too much. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is dairy. Dairy is kind of a thing that you can have, but you can't have because too much lactose in there is going to have carbs. So you're going to want to get things that are very, very thick and creamy. So things like heavy cream, most cheeses. When I say most cheeses, it's because things like ricotta can have a lot of sugar in it. So you're gonna want to watch some of those things. But your cheddars, your mozzarellas, parmesan, most of the time you are good. Heavy whipping cream and sour cream as well, great options. Things you want to avoid, milk. I know this is really annoying because people want to use milk, but try watering down some heavy cream. Along those same lines, half and half. Really should not be having it on keto. There's just far too many carbs to make it worth it, but you can water down cream and kind of get the same effect. Now, some people do prefer a dairy-free keto diet, and I totally understand that. Some people react funny to dairy. I myself probably couldn't live without cheese, so I tend to include a lot of dairy in my keto diet. Snacks. Snacks are something that a lot of people don't really eat once you're fully keto adapted, but in the beginning, they're really good to kind of keep you from cheating. And again, once you've been on the keto diet for a while, you may not do this, but you're going to want to munch on something. And here's just a few things that I recommend looking at and some that I recommend avoiding. Most nuts. Now, there are some nuts that are bad, like peanuts, which aren't actually technically a nut, but regardless, avoid peanuts, but things like macadamia nuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, pecans. All those nuts are going to be really high in fat and pretty good for you. Now be careful about snacking on them because you can definitely overdo it very quickly with nuts. So weigh them out ahead of time, put the container away, and then eat what you've weighed out. There are going to be some carbs, but that's alright. The fat and it's usually worth it, especially with macadamia nuts. Another thing that is great is those cheese crisps. You can buy them at the store or make them yourselves. I have a video right here on how to make keto Cheez-Its. They're fantastic, they're great to munch on, and they really replace potato chips for me because I have a real problem with potato chips. If I have one, I'm eating the whole bag. Now I have a whole list of these things that I could walk through. They're going to be in the infographic, but the reality of it is you're looking for things that are high in fat, low in carb, and you're going to avoid the typical things like you would normally snack on, like chips, cookies, crackers, things like that. But check that infographic because there's going to be a ton of information about snacks that I recommend in there. Now the next big thing to cover is drinks. What can you drink on keto? First and foremost, water. You need to be drinking a lot of water. If your urine isn't pretty much clear, you're not getting enough, and you really don't want to dehydrate yourself, especially on keto. Now the risk with drinking too much water is flushing out electrolytes, but you can always get those through supplementation or other forms of food. But I understand, a lot of you want something fizzy, you want something with flavor, and I totally get it. So things to consider with that is diet soda. Yes, there is some sweetener in diet soda that you probably don't want, like aspartame is in a lot of it. But in moderation, diet soda really won't hurt you. Now, those sweeteners can cause inflammation and things like that, but in terms of knocking you out of ketosis, they're not going to do it. But if it's just the sparkly taste that you're craving, something like sparkling water is a great option. Watch the flavored ones again because of the sweeteners, but sometimes you can find some that have no artificial sweeteners, no carbs, and they're just something fizzy to get in your mouth. I know when I get home from the gym, I really crave that fizziness, and I have no idea why. Now, another thing that I recommend drinking a lot of is Zip Fizz. I drink one a day, and there's just a lot of potassium in it, other vitamins. It's kind of like an energy drink because there's about 100 milligrams of caffeine in it, but it's mostly a vitamin complex, tastes great, and gives you your potassium that you really need. And for lunch every day, I actually drink a keto meal. And the guys over at American Metabolics, the people who make keto meal, hooked me up with a discount code. It's Martins10. I'm going to put it on the screen right here. It's also in the description. If you buy keto meal, go ahead and use that discount code. It saves you 10% and it gives me a little bit of money to help support the channel. So what are the things you don't want to drink? Juices, non-diet sodas, Gatorades that aren't like the zero version. I know we already mentioned this one, but don't drink milk. It's just got way too many carbs in it. And then protein shakes. A lot of them have strange sweeteners in it or sugar in it. You can find some that are quite low on carb if you try hard enough. I recommend the ones from My Protein. But the reality of it is, your protein on keto is so limited anyways, you probably want to get that through natural food sources instead of supplementing it unless you really need to. And along those same lines are meal replacement shakes. Again, just usually too many carbs for you to be able to justify on keto. Now this next topic is kind of a fun one, and that is alcohol. You know me, I like my alcohol. I drink a bit. I've slowed down a lot, but I like to drink here and there. So what kind of alcohol do I recommend? Well, you're really looking for your strong distilled alcohols. You don't want anything flavored. Anything with flavored is going to have carbs in it, so don't do that. No Fireball, no peach vodka, none of that garbage. No beers. Wine you can have in moderation, but there are carbs in wine. There's no carbs in most distilled alcohols. Vodka, tequila, gin, things like that. Whiskey I'll even do on occasion. I actually made a whole video talking about alcohol and what it'll do to you, and I'm going to put that in the card right here. If you guys want to watch that, it'll give you a lot more information about the alcohol. But things you're going to want to avoid, like I said, beers, most white wines, Moscatos, things like that. Not only are they bad for you in terms of ketosis, but they're going to give you a real bad hangover if you decide to do it. You may think, oh, I can squeeze in one glass of Moscato, it's only 11 carbs, but the reality of it is your body's going to try to process that alcohol before it processes anything else, so those carbs are going to have a pretty big impact on you. Moving on here, we're going to talk about condiments. What kind of dipping sauces, things like that that you can use. Now, a big one that I like to use is ranch. Ranch is usually pretty keto friendly. It's one of those things you don't have to worry about when you go to a restaurant and you ask for ranch. It's usually going to be about maybe 2 carbs per serving. That's not bad compared to other things. It's not like ketchup where you can have it, but you need to get the no sugar variety because you go to a restaurant, odds are they aren't going to have that. But things that are safe, mustard. Mustard's great. No carbs in it, everything like that. There's certain barbecue sauces you can have. There's one made by G. Hughes, which is pretty great. But in terms of your sauces, you're going to want to keep things that are high in fat, low in carb, just like everything else on keto. For this reason, I tend to like to use a lot of hot sauce on my eggs. Salsa's okay, but there is going to be some carbs, but hot sauce is pretty much just pepper extract and vinegar, which really there's nothing to it, and it adds a good lot of flavor to your food. Now, a lot of people, when they start getting into keto, they want to know what type of sugars they can use. And there's a whole ton of sugars or sugar substitutes out there. But there's not a ton of information on, what you should and shouldn't have. And you can find some keto graphics, but I made a whole video on them. I'm going to link it right here. If you want to watch through that and see what other sugar substitutes there are. But the ones that I'm just going to quickly recommend to you, stevia, erythritol, monk fruit. Those are all going to have no impact on your blood sugar, and they're fairly safe for you. But the things you're going to want to avoid: sugar, pretty obvious one right there, right? Honey, molasses, maple syrups, things like that. You got to avoid those because those are just packed full of sugars. It's going to knock you out of ketosis. It's just going to ruin your progress. Stay away from them. If you need to sweeten something up, stevia, erythritol, monk fruit. And the last kind of staple that I want to talk about is like my baking stuff. Now, you can't have flour, obviously, but things like almond flour and coconut flour are great to have on hand. And another one you can't have, surprisingly to a lot of people, is cornstarch. Yes, there are carbs in cornstarch. So if you need to like thicken up a stew or something like that, there's something called xanthan gum or psyllium husk powder, depending which you're doing, both of which will thicken things up quite a bit. Now, I know I'm kind of rushing through things here because I don't want to bore you. I don't want to sit here and just list things off on the screen. That's the point of the infographic. So pull that up, take a look at it. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section, or if there's something that you eat that I didn't talk about, go ahead and mention it down there too. Now, this is by no means an all-inclusive list, but I just wanted to give you guys that are just starting out an idea of, the things that I really care about to eat. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close the video. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so, because, it really does help me out a lot, and I do this for you guys, and seeing the support really, makes my day. If you like the video, leave it a like, and if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. But with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.